Welcome to Can I Park Here? Brought to you by FindAFashionTruck.com. Nashay and Estrell's mission is to inspire future and existing small business owners. They don't claim to be experts. They're simply trying to figure this all out, just like you.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Can I Park Here? I'm your host, Nashay Snow, and I'm here with
Estrell Riles.
Today, we're going to be talking to Jessica Murnane, and I am super stoked to have her. I'm like total fangirl. I think she's one of like the top women podcasters out here, and just her movement on getting people to think differently about food is amazing.
Yeah, she's also, her one-part podcast is also listed in the section on iTunes called Inspirational Women's Voices. If you go there, check her out, download her podcast. It's good stuff.
And in the episode, we talk about her podcast. We talk about the one-part movement. She tells us how she gets started and kind of where she is now. So we think this will help your business on two fronts. One, it'll allow you to think about how you could take care of yourself so then you can have more energy for your business. And then two, she also just gives like a few like business tips and talks about what has worked for her.
Right. So we hope you enjoy the episode. Here we go.
Hello. Today we have Jessica Murnane here. Welcome, Jessica.
Hey.
Jessica is the host of the One Part podcast, which I absolutely love. So I'm really excited to have her on here today. And I highly recommend you all downloading it if you don't have it on your lineup already, because it's awesome.
Thank you.
Let's start today's episode off with you telling us a little bit about you. I just read your About page, and I think the story behind One Part podcast is amazing. So I feel like to really get the readers connected with who you are, we should start there.
Yeah, well, first I want to tell your audience that I did have a boutique at one time in my life. So if it's boutique owners, I know you have a lot of boutique owners that are listening, know that I know the struggle, and it's a good thing, but it can also be a crazy thing. So I mean, I think that, having my own store and doing design, it was really the background of my career. I mean, that's what I always did. But then I worked with brides for about 10 years and
wow.
doing paper goods for them. And it just got to a point where I don't know. I was already sick because I had endometriosis, and I had there's no cure to endometriosis, but I was able to avoid getting a hysterectomy and avoid medication just by managing it with food. And when I got burnt, I was just sitting on my couch one night and I was thinking, I don't want to do this anymore, but what do I actually love? And the thing that I just always talked about all the time was how good food really saved me and changed my life. And so I decided to do things with food, good food. And I personally love podcasts so much. And I wanted to start a podcast, but I didn't want it to be a healthy food podcast because I didn't think anyone would want to listen to it. So I started a podcast where I just interviewed, most of the people on the podcast are just interesting people that have come through my life, or they're a friend of a friend. But at the end of every podcast, to really tie in why I think good food helps people, I make each guest give me a plant-based recipe at the end, whether they're plant-based or not. So I don't know. Sometimes when I ask people to do it, I think I might get some resistance, but everyone is always excited to do it. And I think that ultimately all of us want to eat better, whether we want to admit it or not. All of us have a secret desire to want to feel good,
Mm. And so, I was looking on your website too. So it seems like you have a lot of speaking engagements. I feel like this movement just kind of took over. And even though it's not the same as maybe opening up a fashion truck, it's still putting yourself out there and connecting with other people. So how were you able to kind of get people on board with okay, let's change your life. Let's think about what you're kind of putting in your body.
Well, I think that, because I had a store and because, from the store, I did a lot of marketing and branding for different restaurants in Chicago. And I think that really when it comes down to it, I think it's how I approach people with it. I mean, if I showed up with yoga clothes and like a stick of sage in my hand and I walked in and I'm like, let's eat good, no one would have wanted to do it. But if I show up like a normal person and I don't know, I think it's how you approach it, and it's meeting people where they are, because not everybody is ready to drink a kale smoothie every day for breakfast, but they might be open to having some almond butter and an apple instead of eating like a McDonald's sandwich. So I don't know. I think that the reason why the one part plant movement and the one part movement in general has taken off is just because I really try to make it accessible for people, and I really try to meet people where they are, because not everybody might be ready to go all in.
Yeah. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
And it's kind of personal for me.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, we did an episode where I had Nashay interview me because I have, issues with depression and anxiety, and it affects my ability sometimes to work. So, I was wondering if you had, because I know a lot of people say, well, if you change your diet, it'll help you feel better. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations on ways that I could change or improve my diet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, when you said that depression thing, it like made me get a little bit teary, just because I was so depressed all the time before I changed my diet. Like it was, and I live in Chicago, so Chicago winters are really, really brutal in terms of, and not just Chicago, I mean, DC and New York and anywhere that you're not getting any sunlight. It can just, there were days where I just didn't feel like getting out of bed at all. So I think a small way that I never really recommend vitamins to people, just because I don't know what they're already taking medication wise, but I think everyone could really, really do well with a little vitamin D in their life. And if that means, you can't get in the sun, then you need to take vitamin D. Everyone, I think it's, what is it? Like everyone below Alabama or something everyone above Alabama is vitamin D deficient. So do you guys take vitamin D?
I do. I've had deficiencies multiple times. So with the deficiencies, I'll have to get a prescription for a higher dose of vitamin D. And then once I'm done with that, then I take the over-the-counters.
Okay. So you're already on D, which is good. But then I think for you, if you just, with the depression, I just think, I know this sounds, it's like, again, it doesn't have to be a kale smoothie, but I just always say to start your day with something green if you can. And that just means, I think, starting your day with something that's living, because when you really think about it, there's so much that our gut is connected to our brain. And I actually mean there's neurotransmitters in our guts that go to our brain. So if you're feeding your body dead food, your brain is going to feel kind of dead. So I think it's just about feeding yourself really living, live foods that are going to, Dr. Hyman, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that doctor. He says that food is information and not just calories. So whenever I eat something, I think about that piece of food. What information is this giving to my body? So if I'm eating something that's super processed and shitty, that's not giving good information to my body. And especially for something like depression, it's not making my body thrive. It's making it feel sad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like with me, I guess, since I just sometimes just don't feel like doing anything, trying to make myself eat healthier is a struggle. And then when I start to feel even more down, I'm like, well, this big slice of cake might help me for the next 5 minutes. So
right. No. And I think, it's a cycle. It's one of those things where I feel fat, I feel gross, I feel depressed. So I'm just going to keep going and eat this. It's like, Okay, so I guess I know that the idea of just eating healthy, I know that sounds maybe harder than it is, but what if your goal then was just to kind of make little shifts? Like, okay, so I do want that cake, but what if instead I got a tart that's made of maple syrup instead of white sugar? You know what I mean? Like maybe just doing like little simple swaps because, or for me, my comfort food is mashed potatoes. So I'm still going to have mashed potatoes, but I don't have it with a whole bunch of butter and cream now. Like I make it with almond milk and some sea salt and olive oil. So I think maybe if the idea of eating healthy is too much when you're feeling down, maybe it's about still eating what you want, but swapping out things.
Yeah.
And that's interesting too, just to, I guess, give the audience an idea. Like what did you used to eat? And then like, how has your diet drastically changed now? Because I think everybody has their idea of what eating healthy is, but it's like, I don't know. Like, cause for me, I think I eat sort of healthy, but then other people are like,
okay, first of all, Nishay, no, you think eating healthy is having like multiple cups of yogurt per day. That's no. Or just eating one time a day and then.
Oh, no. I have to. Well, no. I'm like one of those people. I have to eat 3 square meals a day. Like I can't eat 1 meal a day. If I'm eating 1 meal a day, it's usually because it's the weekend and I'm running. And so I go out to a restaurant and I have like probably a 3,000 calorie meal.
Whoa,
and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, this will last. But during the week, I have like 3 square meals. Like it's usually bacon and eggs in the morning because I do have this addiction to bacon. Mm-hmm. And then it's like a shrimp salad in the afternoon. And it's the nighttime that gets me because if I don't have time to come home and like heat up like maybe packaged food, then I might go to like Taco Bell, Five Guys.
Yeah, which, the thing is I just kind of feel like if Taco Bell, like you need that in your life every now and then, like you got to do it. But I mean, to me, and again, everybody is different. To me, the most healthy diet that you can have is just eating a completely whole foods diet. So to me, that's minimally processed or not processed at all. Vegetables, fruits, nuts, grains, seeds, legumes. And again, when I say these things, it sounds like, wow, hard. But the thing is, so this summer will be my 5-year anniversary of changing my diet. And people celebrate their wedding anniversary, but I really do think this is a really big deal that I changed my diet because I mean, my daily, I would drink, 2 or 3 Diet Cokes a day. I would have at least a couple bags of candy every day. Sour Patch Kids were my jam. Lean cuisine, pizza. I mean, anything that was microwavable was what I ate. And then cupcakes, candy. I mean, that's what I like to eat. And so doing this was the hardest thing that I've ever done, I think, changing my diet. But I did it very slow and I did it step by step. So when I first changed, I cut out gluten, dairy, and soy. But by cutting that out, that meant that I could still have dairy once a week. And then it went down to, twice a month. And then it just got to the point where I just didn't want it anymore. And I think that the key is that those foods aren't necessarily bad foods. It's just that all of those foods that I named, they cause inflammation in our body, and inflammation is what causes problems. And, inflammation can lead to problems with, joints and with endometriosis. So I think that when we're talking about a healthy diet, I think it's just a diet that's really not having inflammatory foods in it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious as to when you said this was 5 years ago when you changed your diet initially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you changed your diet, did you notice any type of change in your motivation to work and your productivity when it came to your business?
Yes. I mean, I'm not kidding. My husband called them the half eyes. I used to walk around with my eyes half closed all the time. I just did not feel good at all. And I don't think I say something about this in my bio on my website, but we were out to dinner about 3 months after I changed my diet, and my husband just said, "You have your sparkle back." And it was, I did. I had it back. My eyes were open. I felt like I wanted to do things again because I was really, really, really super depressed. And so, I mean, please know, I know that feeling of not wanting to do anything, and not to be too dramatic. Like, I don't think that I was suicidal, but there's definitely days that I felt like, we could just sleep and then tomorrow could happen. That would be cool if like I didn't actually have to do today. So, yeah, I mean, I noticed a huge change, and I still, when I get off my game a little bit, and let's say that there's a day that I don't start my day with something living, or I don't take my vitamin D, the next day I can feel little parts of my old life kind of coming in again. So that's why I know it works so well, is because you can really turn this on and off just based on what you're eating.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing how it can have like a huge impact on your life.
Yeah. I mean, it changed it changed my whole life.
Now, I guess, now it's kind of second nature for you. When you go into the grocery store, you kind of know like what to buy and how to buy it. But how did you get there? Because like maybe for people like us, we aren't used to like eating healthy. So it's like, how do you get to a place where you know like what to buy?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of trial and error because but I will say, I think that it's actually easier to shop at the grocery store now for me. So before, when I would shop at the grocery store 5 years ago, I would walk in, have a little bit of a panic attack, and just leave and just ask my husband to go, because it just felt so overwhelming to me to shop, because I just really looked at food as this is good food and this is bad food. And I really want the bad food, but I should be eating the good food. So it was just this constant struggle that I had. Now, when I go to the grocery store, I'm just looking for whole foods. Like, and I'm not talking about the chain of grocery stores, but I'm looking for whole food. So when I walk in, I think, okay, well, I'm going to get this brown rice pasta because it's just brown rice. And I'm going to go over to this huge produce section and get whatever I want. So it's weird, because I think some people think of it as more of a limited diet, but for me, it's been liberating, because I like having less choices, because then I know exactly what I can eat. Like when I go to a restaurant, there usually aren't a lot of choices that I can have, but I know the choice that I am going to have is going to make me feel really good, and I don't have to like think about what I'm going to get. I have an idea, and we didn't talk about this. And you guys can say no.
Yeah, go for it.
Would you guys be interested in doing my 6-week program together? Silence.
Like,
I was actually just looking at your website right now to change the way you eat and feel. And I'm going through that like, this might not be bad. Because I think that I have no idea really what you were saying in the last 2 minutes, because I was reading the website.
But no, I think if we did it together, maybe we could survive and actually hold each other accountable.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it after, but I just think it might be, I don't know. I think it might be a fun thing for you just to kind of dip your toes in it. And I think especially with summer here, I think it is a lot easier to start it in the summer, especially when you live in cold weather places, because when it's cold, you don't want to go to the store and buy some greens. You want to go to the store and buy not greens. So we'll talk after, but I think it might be kind of awesome if you guys tried it together.
I'm down.
Yeah. Well, at least for the audience, can you tell them just kind of what it's all about, just in case they're interested in being a part of it?
Or, sure. Yeah. So with the 6-week program, it's, I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not telling you, eat this much fat and this much calories because I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor. But what the 6-week program is it's just essentially me really explaining what a whole foods diet is to you and how you can incorporate more whole foods into your life. And I will say that a lot of the 6-week program too is, it's not so much about food. It has a lot to do with emotions too, because I think that changing your diet, it's one thing to, make a sweet potato soup in your house and be so excited about it. It's another thing when you go to family functions and you sit down and there's nothing you can eat, and then people wonder why you're not eating, and then it becomes this whole thing that you don't feel like talking about. So I think the social aspect of it is a really big factor into people changing their diets or not changing their diets. And so a lot of the 6-week program has to do with that too, just how to navigate the world outside of your kitchen. And so, we spend about an hour and a half together, just really going over what you're going to do in the next 6 weeks and how to incorporate more plants into your diet. And then for the next 6 weeks, I check in with you every now and then, but you're really on your own, and you have about 5 to 6 homework items every week. And those are everything from watching a food documentary that I recommend to making something from a cookbook that I suggest. So it's really little tiny things to feel accountable and to be excited about changing the way that you feel.
Wow. No, that sounds awesome.
So I don't know. It would be my gift to you guys for having me on the podcast if you're interested in doing it.
Oh,
no,
yes.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be cool. And then we can tell people, about the experience and, how we feel afterwards. Cause I know one thing that I've been struggling with is I'm an extreme extrovert. Mm-hmm. I'm all the way on the scale. But the last couple of months I've been eating I don't probably eat healthy at all, but I've been eating worse than what I normally do. And I was just telling someone, I feel sluggish, and I hate that because I'm one of those people who are always on the go, but I'm I feel sluggish. And then how your clothes start to get tight too.
Mm-hmm. So then you can kind of feel them on you.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
it's the worst feeling. So I'm I feel I need to do something, change something, but it's always, I think for everyone, it's how do you get started? And it's just that it's once you get started, usually you're okay, but it's just the getting started that's really hard.
Yeah, yes. And I think with anything, getting started is the hardest part, but I also think that when you're trying to change your lifestyle, the only way that you're going to be successful is if you're prepared to do it. And what that means is you need to have the ingredients in your kitchen ready to go. So you can't say, all right, well, after work, I'll go shopping, because that usually isn't going to happen. Let's say you get off work at 7 and then you kind of want to meet up with a friend, and then you get home and there's nothing you eat. So you end up ordering something or just grabbing whatever leftover chips you have and sit on the couch. So it's just about, and that's another thing that I have in the 6-week program is after we talk, I give you my top 10 pantry items that I want you to go to the store and buy and have them in your pantry at all times. So then all you have to do is add some vegetables or something and you have a meal. And the biggest thing that I think that people might not know about me, or they do if they've read my website, is that I do not like to do complicated things. If something has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, I'm not going to make it. So all the recipes on my site are the simplest thing ever, because I just kind of feel if changing your diet is hard, not wanting to spend 2 hours in the kitchen making something that you're not even sure you're going to like is not something that you want to do. So it's very important to me that the recipes are easy, really, really easy.
No, and I think that's
really intriguing
because it's weird. For me, I dread going to the grocery store. Like I've even recently started having Safeway deliver groceries to my house because I hate it so much. And like my husband will tell you, I can't cook. Like there's this like I could follow a recipe. I'm not going to, like I'll follow it to a T and then usually it turns out okay. So I always like things to be as simple as possible because I hate being in the kitchen. But then you have Estrelle. Estrelle is like a gourmet cook. Like she is really, really, really good. So you have like two extremes here that you're working with.
But lately though, Nisha, like would my issue with not wanting to do anything and just feeling down all the time, I barely cook. Like I'm mostly eating takeout all the time. And, I think that this program might be good for me because like everything is like a vicious cycle. So I don't want to do anything. All I want to do is sleep and eat every day, all day. So I don't leave the house most times unless I'm going to work. So I'm sitting in the house doing nothing, eating all the time, which means I'm gaining weight. So I could barely fit my clothes, which is another reason I don't want to leave the house because I don't have anything to wear.
It's such a cycle. Oh God. Right. Yeah. And I never cooked ever. I mean, I've been married. It'll be coming up, I think, on 14 years this year. And Dan, my husband, he cooked for the first 10 years of our marriage. And because I felt so sad and depressed and sick all the time that it felt too much for me to wash a dish. Like it felt like it was too much for me to cut a carrot. And I know that sounds extreme, but it just felt like too much because I just felt so sad. And now I pop up and I cut things and it's weird. It's a weird thing how it just, I never thought I would actually cook, but now I'm cooking too. Yeah. So I get that not wanting to do anything so much. I get that.
Yeah, but we definitely want to participate in it.
Now, can you also, I think, we mentioned earlier, like the one part movement. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Again, like going back to changing your diet, to me, it's just all about taking one part at a time. So that's just so important to me with anything. So whether it's with spirituality or changing your skincare routine to make it all natural or eating better or trying to do working out, I just think it's really hard to do it all at once. Because I know when I first changed my diet, I was starting to look at more websites about, whole foods. And then there would also be articles about going to natural skincare. And then there'd also be articles about meditating. And it felt like so much information and so many things I had to do at once to make all these changes. So in my mind, I just said, I'm just going to do this one part at a time. And I'm going to start with the food. And then, 3 years later, I've started more into the natural skincare. And now I'm starting a little bit more into the spirituality thing. So, and if you don't even want to do all those parts, you don't have to. But when you change your diet or you change your lifestyle, there's all of these parts that people are throwing at you that just it's just too overwhelming to do all at once. So you just want to quit. So I wanted to start this one part movement about doing things one part at a time. And that's why I named it One Part Podcast too, because it's just one part of my overall brand. And from a strategic marketing perspective, it definitely allows me to add in other segments of my business. So there's one part plant, there's one part podcast. I think now more and more that now that I have a baby, I'm doing more parenting things. So there's going to be a one part parent section, just all the parts of your life.
I like that structure.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, and for the listeners out there, definitely check out her website. It's really cool and inviting. It's like one of those websites that you go into, and then after you leave it, you're like, was I here for like 30 minutes?
Oh, good. That makes me happy.
And for the listeners, it's, we try to give as much advice to small business owners and the fashion trucks, the small boutiques, as we can. And it's key when you're first starting out and you're trying to brand yourself, brand your business. When you come up with your business name, it's really key that you put some thought into it. You can't just like think about it for 5 minutes and say, oh, I'm going to call myself this, because you have to think down the line. What's your long-term goal? So if you plan on incorporating other things into your business and it may not go with the name that you have in mind right now, so you have to be more open and think about something that's going to allow you to expand if need be.
Yes, I just think that's so important. And whenever I've worked with brands in the past, because I did graphic design, I would always say, okay, now picture this logo on a business card, on a hot air balloon, and on a step and repeat. Like, it needs to look good everywhere. It can't just look good on this 3.5 by 2 little piece of paper. And I think it's true with the name too. I mean, I think names, like, it's great if you have a cool name that's very specific, but if you think that you want to be the next Martha Stewart or Oprah or whoever, you have to really kind of leave it open for interpretation and also for, other parts to be included.
Right. And then if you decide, if you choose the wrong name because you didn't put any thought into it and you've taken the time to brand yourself, and 5 years later you decide, oh, well, I want to do something else, but it doesn't fit the name I have now. Trying to rebrand yourself after you've already established a customer base and a following is going to be super difficult.
Yeah. And that's funny that you say that, because it was the 2-year anniversary for my One Part Plant brand this year. And I just felt like having just the One Part Plant it was starting to limit me, because I wanted to start the podcast. I was getting requests for speaking engagements that had nothing to do with plant-based things. And so that's why I rebranded to change my website to jessicamurnane.com and then include different parts on there, if that makes sense. So, and I felt like I could do it at the 2-year mark, but if I had been in it after 5 or 6 years, it would have been really weird to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like it's weird. And I don't know if was there like a tipping point where your business just like all of a sudden kind of like shot up and you were like, what just happened? Or like,
I mean,
like you just got more and more popular. It's like the word just like kind of spread about. Yeah.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. I mean, I think as any creative or entrepreneur, you never think it's good enough. So I think that I think that it's just time too, because, like for Instagram, for instance, I was really late on Instagram. I only started it when I started my business, and it's been, you look at other people, a lot of my friends have 100,000 followers or 400,000 followers. And I think, oh man, I've got like 5, but it's a time thing, it's time. And I think that I also really made a conscious effort to just really put myself out there. And, I let's say, for instance, I got a cooking demonstration at Bloomingdale's Home, and people think like, oh my God, wow, you got this cooking demo. Well, I actually walked in and asked, can I do a cooking demo here? So like, people don't know that. It looks like Bloomingdale's approached me.
Wait, when did you do that?
I did that last Thanksgiving.
Oh man, I would have loved to come. That's like maybe 2 blocks from where I work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I actually live downtown. So, so I think that it's nice of you to say that I've exploded, but I've really made a conscious effort to align myself with pretty big names and brands. So then they are getting the word out about me. And then also, obviously, it gives you a lot of credibility when you're aligned with the Bloomingdales or, Apple, which Apple did contact me to speak there, which that was probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. But being able to use those names, it really means a lot to people when they're coming to your website.
Yeah, no, because I think I forgot what website I found you on, but I was kind of late to the podcast game because I remember podcasting sort of being talked about several years ago, and then it kind of went away. And then someone was like, Nisha, you need to start listening to podcasts. And I'm like, people listen to podcasts? And so I was like, I kind of started off, I think, with like Entrepreneur on Fire. And then I found Pat Flynn. And then somehow I stumbled upon Jess Lively's show. And Jess Lively, I was like, wow, okay, there's like, women that are really doing their thing in podcasting too. Let me do like a Google search of some of the top women podcasters.
I came up
to Jess Lively, and you were on the list.
Oh, yeah. Be happy.
Yeah. And so it kind of allowed me to like find like other women, popular podcasts out there. But that's how I discovered your podcast.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I will say too that anyone that's listening that is kind of thinking about ways to grow their brand, I would say starting my podcast has been one of the hugest things for my brand because, it's one thing for people to get to read what you're writing on your website, but it's another thing for them to be able to connect with you on a more personal level and to get to hear your voice. And, it's crazy. I taught this Dabble class a couple weeks ago, and there was 8 people in the class, and 6 of the people that were there signed up because they listened to my podcast. And so circling back to that question that you asked about how I started getting bigger, I'm going to have to say it's the podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for making me think about that.
Right. No, that's awesome.
I wanted to know, sorry, Nisha.
Oh, go ahead.
In regards to having businesses contact you or you contacting other businesses in order to do speaking engagements or like the cooking thing you did at Bloomingdale's, do you have a structure or a press page or like something that you give them to say, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do?
Well, I did not have that, but I actually am I just finished it up yesterday. So I've been wanting to build a little media kit for myself, but as a designer, and I just I overthought it, whatever the word is, overthought it too much. And so I just never actually did it. Probably similar to you not wanting to get out of bed because you don't have clothes. It was like that kind of cycle kind of thing. And so someone suggested to me that just building my media kit in Squarespace, which was the smartest thing ever because the design is already there for you. All you have to do is plug in your information and rates that you have. So I just finished building a media kit in Squarespace. And what I did is you get to it and it says, hi, I'm Jessica. These are the things I do. And then there's 4 options of ways that you can work with me. So one of them is being a podcast sponsor. Another is speaking. Another is events. And another is social media or blog sponsorships. And so it's all laid out. And I'm kind of mad at myself that I haven't done this like way longer ago because now I feel so much more confident approaching brands because I can send them a link and say, hey, here's all about me, as opposed to really feeling like I have to sell myself in an email because no one wants to get an email that's super long.
Right.
So I really suggest everyone, if you want to start pitching yourself or you need a media kit, go into Squarespace and build it. And it can be password protected. Mine's going to be password protected. So it's not out there for the world to see, just for the people that I want to see it.
Oh,
no, I think
that's interesting.
A good idea. I'm a graphic and web designer too. So I get that. And poor Estrelle kind of suffers through things because I'm like, it's not perfect yet. And she was like,
oh my God, Jessica, listen. She, first of all, she's very anal and it has to be like, oh, so perfect. She won't let me touch anything that has to do with designing or choosing a font. Like I can't do anything. It's like off limits. And then when she decides like that, she's like super manic. So when she decides that something needs to be changed on the website or it's like out of date or whatever, like I can go to sleep or take a nap for like 30 minutes and then I wake up and everything is changed.
Yeah, it's when you're a designer, you have an obsessive nature about it. So yeah, so I actually think that if you built a media kit in Squarespace, it will be a nice exercise for you to just sort of let things be because you only have so many options in there. And it kind of felt liberating for me to say, okay, these are the fonts I have to choose from. I have to get this done. Because if I had to design it myself and I could do anything, I just still wouldn't have a media kit.
Right. And that's actually on we use this app Todoist to let us know, kind of keep us on task and figure out like what we need to work on daily and weekly. And this weekend for us, we actually have like creating a media kit and kind of like a press release for some of the things that we're doing. And so this interview is very timely because
good.
I'm just going to use Squarespace because I was planning it
Can I
out
do it, Nashay, will you let me do it? Please?
Sure.
You can't say no on the show. And you can't renege if you say yes. Because everybody hears you.
Look, you can assist.
See? I can't take on anything. But no,
I think it's a genius idea because another thing that we were kind of grappling with too is like, well, we don't want everybody to necessarily have access to this. Because it's really not for everyone. It's not, and we don't want anything to take away from the website. So I think your idea is like pretty genius, and we're going to definitely try it out.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I want to say it was not my idea, but I heard it from someone else, and now I'm passing it on to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump back to something you were talking about earlier, just maybe for personal reasons, but you were talking about skincare, and that's like something that I have always had issues with, like acne. Like I've been to a dermatologist and had like prescription medicine that kind of worked. I just, what was it? I think last year I switched over to just Paula's Choice, which is something you could use. It has like a toner and everything. And it sort of keeps my acne at bay. But even right now I have like 2 or 3 like acne spots that are very noticeable. Mm-hmm. So I'm figuring it is, and I've read articles where they talk about like either changing your diet or using like more oils on the skin, which makes me nervous because I have like that oily combination skin.
Right.
But I've tried to start incorporating that. But I just wanted to know if you had any advice on, I guess for people with acne prone skin, like some things they could do either like using oils or changing their diet that might like assist.
Yeah, well, people don't want to hear probably the 3 things I'm going to say, but one,
healthy and exercise.
No. I would never say that. But I would say that dairy is just dairy is a skin killer. It is. Really? It's
no cheese?
Worst. It is the worst thing for your skin in terms of, and when you do the 6-week program, I'll talk all about dairy, but it's just dairy is the thing. And I don't know. So one of my friends, Adina Grigor, she owns SW Basics, and she just wrote a book called Skin Cleanse, which is, I would recommend to anyone that has any sort of skin issues because, so she has the natural skincare line, SW Basics, but the book really dives into foods that create problems, and she talks about dairy a lot in it. Sugar is a huge problem for people with acne. And so, so I personally, I had awful acne in the past, like so bad that, my nickname was Pimple Princess in high school. So it was disgusting. And I used everything that you could imagine, but the thing that made my acne go away was I just stopped touching my face and stopped putting things on it for a while. And that's actually something that Adina suggests in her book, is just to go skincare free for as long as you feel comfortable doing, just to see how it changes your face. Because a lot of times the stuff that you're putting on it is just irritating it and making it worse, especially with all the chemicals and things. So my advice is I just wash my face with water. I don't put anything else on it. And I have not washed, it sounds disgusting when you say it, but I haven't washed my face since college in terms of soap or anything. So
but how do you get all, like, when your face gets oily, how do you get that off?
So the only thing that I use Adina's makeup remover from SW Basics, which is just, and she actually has most of the recipes in her book. And it's just like an olive oil thing that you just use. It's like olive oil and coconut oil to just take off my eye makeup. But if you just like splash water on your face like 10 times and just use a little washcloth, you don't need all that stuff on your face. And I'm telling you, crazy dramatic things happen when you stop putting crap on your face.
I'm going to try that. And I have heard that coconut oil works wonders for your face. And since it has antibacterial properties, it's good for acne.
Yeah.
But I've just been too lazy to use it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's just, I think when you're trying to change a lot of things, like I said, that one part thing, if washing your face with just water is the first step. And then maybe the second is, I do actually like coconut oil, especially in the winter. If I'm having one of those days where I just feel like my skin is so dry, I'll just like lather on like some coconut oil on my face. But I get that scary part of, oh, why would I want to put oil on my face if it's already oily or I have acne? But maybe just try the nothing on your face for a little while, unless it's a plant. That's what I always say. Like, only put plants on your face.
Because I want to say a couple of years ago, I did try nothing, but except, I probably maybe just the cleanser I was using might have still been irritating it. But by the fifth month, my face looked like I had like chicken pox. So I ended up having to go back to the dermatologist because I was like, okay, clearly something is still wrong. But
get that book too? Maybe for during your 6 weeks, you guys could check out Adina's book, because I mean, the thing that she explains in the book is that there are no regulations in the United States on skincare, which is terrifying. So skincare companies can put whatever they want in the products. So that's really scary. So you don't actually even know what you're putting on your face.
Yeah. And what's funny is, like, I guess this is like one of those, I would say, like, meant to be. I showed like a whole bunch of like pictures from this bookstore of different books. And one of them I was just looking through my phone. It's called Skin Cleanse, and it has the green lips.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm like, oh, this looks real familiar.
I sent that picture to you like last week or whatever, because I was like, oh, this might be a cool book. I wonder if I should buy it. Let me just take a picture of it and remember it.
Oh my God.
Maybe go back to it.
It's a great book. And Adina you guys would love Adina. She is hilarious. So yeah, please purchase that book. And it's a really fast read too. You would be able to get through it pretty quickly.
Yeah. And for all the listeners out there too, we'll include it in the show notes to link to it to Amazon or whatever, so you can pick it up if you want to.
Nashay, I'll let you buy it and read it, and then you can just translate to me.
Well, I'll just translate it for you right now. Don't eat dairy or sugar, and stop putting crap on your face.
Yeah, so those are the 3 things. Do that and you're golden.
Because I hate reading. I hate reading so much.
Nice.
Nashay is my eyes. She reads everything for me.
Well, okay, so we're going to just ask a few like random wrap-up questions.
Well, actually, Nashay, I wanted to ask Jessica if she had any advice for future or existing business owners. Like, what's the most important tip that you can give them as far as starting their own business?
Well, I would say that, and this is, again, going to sound like one of those eat healthy and work out. It sounds easier than it is. But I just truly think that the biggest lesson I've learned through the different businesses that I've owned is this business that I have right now. I truly feel like it's my thing. And I think it's because it's the first time that I've completely felt like I'm myself in it. And I'm not trying to create anything for what I think people are going to buy or what they might not buy. I'm just putting out what I feel proud of. And when I owned my stationery store and we're designing the wedding invitations, I feel like I was always constantly trying to think, okay, what's going to sell? What would people like? And I think when sometimes you just sort of say, I'm just going to be me. And like, obviously you need to be conscious of trends and what's popular. But I think that when you truly love your product and you love what you're putting out there, people can feel that. And I think that it just makes you more of an authentic brand. And people really, really love to connect with authentic brands.
Oh, that's good advice. So we just have a few wrap-up questions. So kind of just first thing that pops in your head.
Oh, gosh.
It's like a quiz. Do you have a favorite podcast or blog? If so, what is it?
Oh, gosh. I listen to very weird podcasts. So I love The Right Reasons on Grantland. I don't know if you guys, if you're anybody out there is a Bachelor fan, it's just a podcast. It's just about reality shows. And it comes on every Friday. I also listen to Jalen and Jacoby, which is on Grantland, which is an NBA podcast. And then I also listen to Mike and Tom Eat Snacks, which is just these two guys that eat snacks and talk about it.
That's hilarious.
So all the podcasts I listen to have nothing to do with living well.
Nice. If you could have any, celebrity, entertainer, model, mentor, you name it, be on your podcast, who would it be?
Dr. J.
Really?
He is just, I love Julius Erving so much for some reason. I think he is so handsome and just such an innovator in what he did in terms of basketball. And I don't know. I play this game with my friend and it's, which celebrity would make you nervous if you've met them. And I've worked a lot with celebrities and celebrities don't make me nervous at all. I'm just like, they're like, whatever. But if I met Dr. J, I would feel so nervous.
Oh, neat. Well, Dr. J, if you're listening or your wife is listening, get in touch with Jessica. What do you like to do in your free time to wind down and just de-stress?
I love looking at magazines. I'm such a magazine person. I'll have like a stack of them that I don't really get through. So I just love sitting and flipping through magazines or just heading to the bookstore and just sitting and looking at magazines. I love magazines. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I kind of miss like the bookstores because, a lot of them like close down. So
yeah, there's one basically.
Yeah. Right, exactly. That's cornered the market. And then you may have, depending on your city, like a few like mom and pop bookstores.
But the mom and pops don't want you to sit and read magazines. They do not like that. You have to go to a big bookstore to do it, where there's no one like watching you.
Right, where you could buy coffee from Starbucks or whatever and just kind of sit and flip. Yeah. Android or iPhone, and what's your favorite app?
iPhone, and gosh, I'd have to say the podcast app. I feel like it's the one I use the most. Although I just joined ClassPass recently. Do you guys have that where you live?
No.
So ClassPass, again, this is the one part thing. I have a very hard time. If I have to do the same type of working out all the time, I will not do it. Like I get bored doing something all the time. So ClassPass is $100 a month, but you can take whatever classes you want, wherever you want. So this morning, I did this like weird cardio fusion. I don't even know what it was class, but then next week I'm going to take a yoga class. And then the next day I'm going to take an acrobatic yoga class. So it's really cool. It's just $100 a month and you just do whatever classes you want, which is, it's about the same price as a gym, but you don't have to go to the same place every day.
Oh, no.
So I would say the ClassPass app is my new favorite one because I don't necessarily like working out, but I like trying new things. So it kind of works for me.
Yeah, I don't think they have one in the DC area, but then again, I don't really work out. So I would not know. Besides LA Fitness and like some of the big places, so I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?
I would, I think this is really relevant to right now. I really want to get podcast sponsors, like really, really awesome ones. And I just need to start. Now that I've got this media kit, I have no excuse to go after big brands. So that's going to be mine. I'm going to email some big, big brands next week and just not care if they say no.
No, good for you. Because I figure, that's the thing. It's like the only thing people can do is say no. And if they say no, it's like, okay, whatever. And even if you get one yes and, 20 no's, at least you got that one yes. And that one yes could be the most awesome yes,
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing too is just talking to other women that have blogs or websites that are successful. They always say, they're like, brands just don't come to me. Like, I'm pitching myself. When I'm getting a lot of these opportunities, it's because I'm asking for them. So I think similar to the Bloomingdale's thing, I don't necessarily feel uncomfortable walking into Bloomingdale's and saying, hey, can I do a cooking class here? But for some reason, reaching out to a huge company and saying, my podcast is great. Like, it offers value to you. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the hardest thing is proving to people what you think your value is sometimes the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm.
For the listeners out there, like kind of pre-show, I was just telling, Jessica that, when we received like an email from her and she agreed to do the podcast, like I was like so giddy, so I feel like you're like a podcast celebrity out there.
Oh,
so even though
that's so nice of you to say that.
So my thing is like, if I was doing what you were doing and had kind of like the response that you've gotten so far, at least like it seems like you've gotten like a ton of responses. I've seen you different places, that I would just go for it, because I think people like sponsors would eat you up, because I feel like you have like a really good audience that they would want to like, pitch to and sell things to and expose their products to. And especially if they're sponsors that you like and you stand behind, they know that'll give their company that much more weight. So I think.
Okay, well, thank you. Would you like to write an endorsement for my media kit?
Right. And then they'll be like, who is that?
She would love to write an endorsement for her boo.
I know, right? But it's, I say go for it. But it's been awesome having you on this show.
Thank you so much.
A lot of our listeners will also like listen to your podcast and definitely go to your website, which I'm excited about, because I think that will help them. And I'm excited to do the program along with Astrell, because I think this might be the kick in the butt that we needed, because we've been doing our full-time jobs, and then this almost as a full-time job too, to the point where we're not taking care of ourselves.
So you're committing to this on air. You're saying yes.
Right.
Nisha,
yes.
Stop talking.
We have committed. I've committed on behalf of Astrell. And we will report back just to let people know that we stood by it and how
we'll dedicate an episode with just us to letting the audience know about our progress and how it had, it will help improve our business, or if it what the effects of it has been on the business.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But thanks again, Jessica, for
thank
coming
you.
on.
Of course. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Well, I am so excited that we had Jessica on. I thought that was like a great interview. I'm a huge fan of hers. So I'm just really excited that she was able to talk to all of you guys about thinking about food a little bit differently.
Absolutely. And, it's great when there are women that are doing their thing. And she is one of the women that are going for the gold. And she knows how to eat healthy. She knows that eating healthy and exercising can improve your life. It can ultimately improve your business. So if you're a small business owner, know that you have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you're okay so that your business is okay and so that you can be successful.
Yeah. And on top of that, of course, we skipped around a little bit with that and the skincare, and I swear I had just taken a picture of that Skin Cleanse book in the bookstore because I flipped through it and I was like, it seems interesting, but I didn't want to do an impulse buy. But I feel like, I don't know, what's the word? Is it serendipitous? I don't know. That she mentioned it. So I am definitely going on Amazon today and purchasing it. Because even flipping through it, I believe it was last weekend, it looked like it was really good. And that's an issue I've always had problems with, is my skin. And I know I know it's just maybe genetics, but I know it also has something to do with diet and exercise.
We briefly touched on choosing your business name when you're first starting out and how it in turn helps with your branding. And if you ever plan to grow in the future and add products on or services on to what you currently offer, you want to be really careful about choosing your business name. And I think that how Jessica did her branding is awesome. She started off with, first of all, she created her website with just her name as the domain. And the product that she's selling is one part. So each additional service and product that she has, she adds on to the one part, like the one part plant, the one part podcast. And she has the ability to continue to expanding on that, for however long, because it's so general and it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. And even though I don't think probably it was necessarily intentional, which is why she said after 2 years, she decided to kind of change things up again and then put everything under her name and then just kind of take that one part to the next level. But if you can be intentional about it, I think that's great.
Right.
And then, of course, as always, if you go to startafashiontruck.com and you need assistance with this, we do have like our consulting services and we can help you with that. And, I just thought about it, but I think we were just so excited to have her on. We forgot to ask her like where to find her. So you can find her at Jessica, Murnane.com. And you can find everything from the one part podcast, one part plant, to how you can work with her. And then if you go on her website, it links to her Twitter account, her Instagram account, her Pinterest account, and you can connect with her. And all of them are like her name. So she should be pretty easy to find.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Nasha and I certainly got a lot out of it. We're actually going to do her 6-week course. And once we finish, we will dedicate an episode specifically to that and how it has helped us with our business.
Yeah, have a wonderful day.
Thanks for parking here.